Hello, welcome to the series where I show you what I am doing to try and become a web developer. My name's Craig and this is week 23. This week's been a bit interesting. Not the best of starts just due to some extenuating circumstances, but I tried to make up for it as best as I could. This week I've finished the intermediate HTML and CSS section of the Odin Project and I've started the JavaScript section. I've worked on the React app that I started last week, created a new calendar website, and I've worked through some CSS battles and some code wars. Let's dive in to see how much time I've spent on web development this week. The total time for the week is 24 hours and 15 minutes, and that's broken up into 9 hours 45 for tutorials, 13 hours 45 for projects, and 45 minutes for career stuff, so that's job applications, etc. The time this week's pretty much on par with the previous week, and I'm fairly okay with that given what's happened at the start of this week. Quite a short section, this one, really. So there's only two kind of topics I want to cover, and that's the Odin Project and the main course that I'm taking. First up with the Odin Project. Very happy that I finished the intermediate HTML and CSS section. I thought this was a really good section of the course. I really enjoyed the CSS grids. There was a few games they included, and some of them I hadn't done before, so that was quite fun. And I also really enjoyed the project at the end of the course, which was an admin dashboard, which I'll be showing later. In terms of the JavaScript section, I'm not too far through that right now, and I am struggling with it a little bit. I'm up to the section of constructors and prototypes, and I think it's the prototype bit which kind of got my head a little bit muddled up. I understand how to set them, but I think it's the best practice of it all, which I'm not quite clear on. I will probably look to just read that article again, and I'll watch a few videos around it just to try and make it a little bit more clearer in my head. And then with the main course, I am really starting to enjoy this. So this course is all about creating an invoice website where you can save invoices, view them, delete them, etc. And right now it's just sent the invoice to the database using a button click, and I thought that was really cool using the fetch method. Let's dive over the computer to see what I have been building this week. So I've got the calendar app to go through, the React app that I've made some changes to, and I'm going to show the sign up form and the admin dashboard from the Odin project that was in the intermediate HTML CSS section. So first up, the calendar app. The UI obviously needs improving. It's a little bit dull and boring. But we got these buttons to change the year, and on change, this updates the calendar below. You can also type in rather than use the arrows. And then similarly, you got the months, you got drop downs, and you can use the arrows. That will update the calendar. If you go back the previous year, so January to December, the year will also decrease. And similarly, if you go from December to January, the year will increase. This was quite fun, working with dates is always, it's interesting, we'll say that. I also added this kind of task list down at the bottom, so you can click on a day and this little modal pops up. It's already got the date populated and you just add a title and a description. What I do like about the modal as well, I've added this filter background, I believe it was, a CSS property where you can blur it. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't have a kind of on-click method, so you have to close it using either the button or once you add an item, it will close the modal. The tasks are added to local storage. So on refresh or on load, the tasks are already saved, which I thought was really good. If I refresh as well, you can kind of see a slight animation I put in on today's date just to make it stand out a little bit. The task list can be clicked on and that removes an item. But unfortunately, if I refresh the page, it hasn't removed it from the local storage. So to do that, I've got this clear list, which will delete the items. So there are a few builds that I want to do with this. Obviously the UI, I just really want to kind of try things and experiment just to improve my design skills, really. Secondly, I think it would be really good if I'm able to edit the date on this modal, so I could have a date selector there. And similarly, if I have a task, so I'll just put in a random task. It'd be nice if maybe instead of clicking deleting it, I can click and edit it, but I'll need to think how that goes through to the local storage as well. And possibly, rather than clicking on an item and removing it from the list, maybe add a button at the end, like a little trash can icon, where you click that instead and it deletes the item. That might work. But that's the calendar app. It was quite a fun little thing to try. Next up is the React app. I've got that working in the background. So the changes I've made this week is this create workout. I've added this section, so you can say I want to do squats, 3 sets of 10. And it will add a squat exercise at the top. However, this create workout isn't stored in local storage or stored anywhere, so on refresh it will clear it. And I've also worked on the timer, more so adding like the background colors that I discussed and a buzzer sound. There's still the issue where the timer kind of lags a little bit, and I need to figure that one out. And there's also an issue where it will continue to the next screen. So if I start a timer on this create workout, it will go through to all the other screens. Now, I don't know if that is good or bad, but it's a side effect that needs looking into. Quickly run this to show you. I've turned my volume right down, so you probably won't be able to hear the buzzer, but it will change to rest time. I'll just say if I go to the home, there it's still doing the work time. So yeah, I'm not sure if I like how the timer continues onto the next page. And then the Odin Project. First up, the sign up form. Now straight away there's an issue, and that's with the image being too large and takes a little bit of time to load. This project was mostly to do with just starting to use form elements a little bit. The form doesn't submit, and the active and error styling were forced. So as part of the project to add a class of error and a class of focus, I believe it was, to style these elements. I'm not entirely sure if this gray background, it just looks a bit dull and boring. So something needs, I think I need to change this color, probably make it a little bit lighter. I do quite like this font. I can't remember what it is, but I like that font. Maybe I've got the letter spacing just a little bit too narrow, and I should probably have some kind of hover effect on the button and the login. This password bit here is just a after pseudo element. It would be really nice later on to add some JavaScript functionality to do that kind of check if the passwords match or not. And finally, the admin dashboard. This is one I really like. I thought this project was really good. So this was all to do with CSS grid. I don't believe I used a single flex box here, which was kind of the point. I did struggle a little bit with the header up here, just getting it aligned nicely. The first attempt was pretty bad, but generally I think it looks okay. I've only built it for desktop, but it is slightly responsive due to using auto fit on the grid template columns. There are a few issues on the mobile. This should really be like a burger bar and it would slide in, so there's some more real estate on the screen for the main content. The header needs looking at again on mobile. The one thing I do really like is just this little hover animation on the cards. Maybe not the text shadow, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, I really like how the color comes down. Well, that was good. These hover, and the icons also hover. I thought this project was great, really good test of skill. I just found it quite interesting. And briefly, CSS battles, I completed another, it was 4 or 6, I can't quite remember. It does become a little bit monotonous, I guess, after doing a few of them in a row. So I spent probably more time on Code Wars than CSS battles this week. There were a few challenges on Code Wars where I struggled, mainly to do with either recursive functions or I was just making the problem more complicated than it needed to be. That is everything for week 23. As I say, considering the start of the week, I'm really happy with how this week's progressed, and I felt like I've been quite productive. I've applied for 2 more jobs. That's a total of 6 this month and 11 in total since the start of the year. I have heard back from a job as well, actually, so quite happy about that. Just trying to set up an interview right now. Next week, again, I'm going to focus a lot more on the Odin project. Another 2 to 3 days working through the JavaScript section. I'll try to complete a front-end meta challenge along with continuing the MERN course. And if I get time, I'll continue to work on the calendar website. And with next week, I do want to improve my time again. As I keep saying, another 30 minutes or so, just slowly improving it. All the links to resources and everything will be down below. As always, greatly appreciate your thoughts and advice. If you have enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button down below. And if you'd like to see more, then please subscribe. Hope you have a good day, and I'll catch you later.